Okay, welcome to drafting. I'm going to do a quick rundown on some of the tools that you can use when you're working in AutoCAD. So the very first one here is your line tool. If you click on line, it will then tell you, always read your dialog box here beside your cursor. It says specify first point. So we're going to click where we want to start, and then we can start to extend in any direction that we want. Notice that highlighted in blue is our distance, and we can type a distance in if we want it to say be 10 units. We type in 10, and then if we hit the tab button, it then now selects our angle. So you can see here that it's locked it in at 10 units long, but we can adjust to whatever angle that we want. So if I want it to be 32 degrees, I type in 32, and now it gives me a line that's 10 units long at 32 degrees. Okay, that's our line tool. You can specify length and angle. Now, once you select a line, you're going to see that it turns blue and you get a box on each end. You can now size this line up by grabbing onto a box and pulling it and stretching it. So it does change those properties that we initially put in, but it allows you to quickly maybe extend a line to a certain point or shorten it a little bit if you need it to meet up with another line. It's a quick way of doing that. Okay. All right, I'm going to delete that line, and we're going to look at a couple other things. So one thing that you want to do is make sure that you have appropriate layers. If you go into your layer menu, so up here it's layer properties, it will then display the layers that you have. So right now we only have a layer called 0. I'm going to make this a little bigger so we can see. Come on. Okay, if we want to add a new layer, we click on the little orange button here, and we can type in and say call a layer construction. So those are for construction lines. Now it's going to look the same as those layers unless we change the color. So if we click on the box here, brings us up a color palette, and we can now select a different color if we like for our construction line. We'll close this up. Now anytime you want to toggle between layers, you hit this drop down menu here, and you can simply click on construction. And now when we go to draw a line, you can see that it's in this construction layer. If you've drawn a line in construction, you want to change it over to your 0 layer, click on it, and then click on the 0, and now it's changed over to a 0 layer line. One thing that you can also do too is once you have your lines in a construction layer, they're great for reference lines. You can then turn those lines off by simply going into your layers here and clicking on this light bulb right here. Now that line disappears, but it's not deleted. We can still get it later if we want to click that light bulb back on. So that's great for presenting your file at the end if you have a bunch of reference point lines that you don't want to lose, but you want to be able to have those in a different layer. Construction layer is great for that. Okay, a couple other tools. We're going to look at drawing a circle. Anytime that you draw a circle, you need to know where the center point of that circle is. So that's oftentimes when you're drawing a circle, it's handy to use, say, a construction layer line, mark out a distance, let's say 5 units over and 2 units up from that point. So once I have that information, I can then click to my 0 layer, click on circle. When you go to circle, there's options of center radius or center diameter. Remember, radius is from center to the edge of the circle. Diameter is from edge of the circle crossing through your center point. So we're going to click on that point right there. Now we can type in the size of circle that we want. If we want a 1 unit circle, we type in 1. It'll give us a radius of 1. And now we have our circle at 1. Other tools that you can use is your move tool. So make sure you follow the instructions. If you click on move, it then says select objects. So if I only want to move this circle, I click on that. And now down at the bottom, it says 1 object found. Once we've said, okay, that's all we want to move, we push enter. And now it says specify the base point. So where do we want to pick that circle up from? Well, I want to pick it up from the center point usually. So I click on the center point. And now I can move that circle wherever I want and set it down. Okay? We could also take that circle and underneath move, make a copy of it. So if we click on copy, it says select the objects. Well, I want to select this circle. It says, okay, we found 1, push enter. And now it says specify base point. So where do we want to pick it up from? Well, we want to pick it up from the center of the circle. So we'll click on that. And now I could put the circle here. And now you can start to make multiple copies of the same object very quickly and place them precisely where you want them. Okay. Next thing we can look at is something called rotate. So let's say we have a shape that we've made up here. Now, I'm just going to pan up here. When you're navigating, use your mouse roller to zoom in and zoom out. And if you click that mouse roller down, it turns into a hand, and now you can pan across to view whatever it is you want to view. I'm going to look now at rotate. So I'm just going to draw a simple shape. We have a triangle here. Now, if we want to change the rotation of that, we can click on rotate. And now it says select objects. Now you can either go along and select each individual line, or you can click once and make a box selection. As you drag your box to the right, it turns blue. If you go to the left, it turns green. To the right, you have to have the entire line inside the box for it to be selected. To the left, if the box is touching the line, it will be selected. So that can be sometimes useful if you have an elaborate object and you're just trying to grab certain pieces of it. Now that I have the object selected, it says, okay, we found 3 objects. I push enter, and now it says specify the base point that you want to rotate from. Well, I'm going to pick this corner here, and now we can type in a rotational angle, or we can simply freehand rotate it to whatever angle that we want. So I might say, well, I want it to flip 180 degrees, and there it is at 180 degrees. A couple other things to note. Down at the bottom here, you have what's called a polar tracking. Make sure that's turned on. There's a little arrow beside it. If you click the arrow, it'll allow you to lock in certain angles as you're drawing. So I like to have mine set to 15, 30, 45, 60, so that when we're drawing a line, as we start to draw it, at 0, it kind of latches in, and then as I get to 15, it locks in there, and then every 15 degrees, it kind of locks in for us. So that can be really handy sometimes if you're working in any angle increments of 15 degrees. Another thing that you want to have down at the bottom here is called your snap tool. So it's a little box here. When it's turned blue, that means it's on. So if I want to, say, draw a line on the end of this corner here, it puts a box over there and it snaps it on there for me. If you have that tool turned off and you try to draw on top of that line, it won't snap to that endpoint. So you might look at it and say, yeah, that's lined up good right there. I'm going to draw my line. But when you zoom in, you find out, no, that is not connected. So make sure that snap tool is turned on. You can also customize what your object snaps to by selecting these things. Make sure you have things like endpoint and center and intersection turned on. Those are important ones that you'll use a lot. Okay. Next thing we're going to look at is our offset tool. Our offset tool is wonderful. What it'll do is it'll allow us to, say, take a straight line of a certain length and draw a replica of it an exact distance away. So this right here is our offset tool. We click on that. It says specify offset distance. Let's say I want my distance to be 5. So I say 5, enter. And now I click on my line, and now it says, okay, 5 to the right or 5 to the left. So you click which side you want it to go on. It assumes you want to offset again, so I can click on that again and offset, click again, and you can continually get the exact same object spaced out at whatever space that you want it to be. Another tool that we can use is something called our fillet tool. So let's say that we have an object, like let's say we're drawing this square here, or rectangle it would be. Just going to get it lined up here. And we want to round off the corners. We click on fillet, and now it says specify first object or, and it prompts us down on the bottom on things we can do. The only one you're going to need to set on this is your radius. So we click on radius, and now it says specify fillet radius. Let's say we want it to be 1 unit. I type in 1, push enter, and now my radius is set to 1. Now I just select the first object, it says, and then it says select the second object. So I've now selected those, and now it puts a fillet on the corner that's 1 unit. If you want to use the fillet again, you simply click on it, and it will default to the last value that you've set. So this one is going to stay at 1, and it's going to allow me to fillet all of those corners off. Next tool that you might want to use is called a trim tool. So if you, say, have some random sets of lines, I'm just kind of drawing a bunch of stuff here. And let's say you want to trim part of this out. Let's say we have this triangle and we want to trim out these lines right here. A way that you can do that is by selecting trim. And now we're going to select the objects or extents. So let's say I want to trim out the inside of this triangle. I'm going to select here, here, and here, and then I'm going to push enter. Now that selects those as cutting edges. Now I can go inside here and remove this, remove this, remove that, and that. And now we've opened up the inside of this triangle by trimming all of those pieces out. Okay. The next thing that I want to show you guys is just how to put sizes on, so dimensions. So to do that, I'm just going to create a new layer here, and I'm going to call it dimension. Now, I'm going to color it a little bit differently. I'm going to color it red. I like to use red for dimensions, and then close it. Now what I can do is go along here to linear dimension. I can click here. I can click here. And now what it's doing is it is showing me a size. Sorry, I need to put that into dimension first. So if I want to say the length of this line, I could say, well, I want an aligned dimension from here to here. And now it shows me the size of that is 9.3889. I didn't draw that line precisely, as you can see, but now we can apply sizes to our objects as well. The last thing I'm going to show you guys is hatching. So hatching is this button right here. If we click on hatch, it's going to bring up a menu. It takes a second to load. And what we can do is create solid colors or patterns when we have an area enclosed. So for example, we have a triangle here. We open this area up. It's completely enclosed. If any corners are open, it won't identify that space. But it says here, pick points. So if I want to pick this internal point, I'm going to click on it. And now what I can do is I can choose a pattern if I want. I could make it a solid color. There's different patterns you can choose all down in through here. And you can get a combination of different colors. If I want to, say, make it a solid color, I can do that. And then I can go in and change the color to whatever color that you want it to be. All right, those are some fun tools. I hope you guys learned a little bit, and I hope you enjoy these tools. Have fun drafting.